attending the jungle camp meeting. Well, 4 more happy years have sped by before we come to the time of the jungle camp meeting, about which I want to tell you now. During this time, Clever Queen grew and grew, till she was a bright, clean, happy little girl of 12, and the pride and delight of her mother and grandmother. "You'll be sure to come to the camp meeting next month, won't you, Grandma?" she said one day in the early New Year, as she chanced to see her dear old Grandma at the dispensary. "Our big Thar has come back from America, and he has brought a living picture box." "A living picture box?" puzzled Grandma. "Yes, you know the little picture box. Well, it's like that, only it's different." "How is it different?" "Well, you know he can show those pictures at night time on a sheet, and the pictures look like people, but they are not living. They are dead pictures. They can't move or run or laugh." "Do you mean to say he can show pictures now that run and move and laugh?" "To be sure he can, Grandma. I've seen them. And the people talk. Oh, I never knew before how many white people there were in the world, and the motor cars run like beetles. Grandma, I tell you, you must come, and the band is going to play the same time that we sing, and Thar is going to, I don't know what all he is going to do, but Thar and Peter are talking and putting up little pegs of bamboo in the ground, and they have brought 6 big cooking pots. But Grandma, you must come. Tell all the others in the village, won't you?" "We'll come, surely," said Grandma, "but we won't tell the old toothless one about the living pictures that move and run. She'd surely say they are devils." "Devils," said Clever Queen, unable to cover her disgust. "Devils? She thinks everything is devils. Never mind her, Grandma. You'll come, won't you?" "I must go. There's the bell." As Clever Queen tripped off to class, Grandma beamed with pride. "Ah, we'll come. Grandma will come," she said to herself. Then, as her granddaughter disappeared in the schoolhouse, she turned towards the jungle and started off towards home. Did ever a month go by so slowly? Yet each day had some wonderful change in the school grounds. Where the pegs had been placed in the ground, there now stood a great big straw chapel, with a place for the band to play, and a place for the children to sing, and a place for the Thar to stand, and a sheet for the pictures, and mats in the schoolrooms for the hundreds of visitors to sleep on, and plates for them to eat from, and a big row of fireplaces where they were going to do their cooking. Every day they practiced and practiced till everybody could stand at the same time, sit at the same time, and sing at the same time. Surely there had been other camp meetings before, but this time it was different. At last the day came. Twice during the night the launch brought up the believers from the outstations down the river. More than a dozen bullock wagons brought in more from the outstations out west, and the boys were rowing people over from across the other side of the river all day long, and by that night about 300 visitors had come and had found places to sleep. People who had never ridden on a boat before, who before this had never gone farther than 10 miles from their jungle villages, were there. They had come to enjoy the music and the singing. They had come to see the wonderful pictures, and they had come, too, because they were hungry for something better than they had. They were tired of being slaves of the devils, and they were feeling their way to something better. At 5:30, the band started to play, and at 5:30 the crowd started to gather for meeting. Not 20 or 30 as we used to have years ago, but 500, 600. The straw chapel was well filled, but the crowd still gathered. From nearby villages, the bullock wagons were driven in by the score. There was no more room to sit. 800, 900. They were standing around. They were sitting up in the mango trees. They pulled bullock wagons up in a row and sat on the tops of them. Over 1,000 came to the meeting that night. What was that? Shh! Came from hundreds of lips within the chapel. It's going to start. And as the great crowd quieted down, the big Thar stood up, smilingly spoke words of welcome to the visitors, and then they started to sing. The band started to play all together at the same time. The children were standing up in their places. Their clothes were clean. Their hair was nicely combed. Their little mouths all open together as they sang, "Let us sing a song that will cheer us on our way. In a little while we're going home. For the night will end in the everlasting day. In a little while we're going home. There's a rest beyond, there's relief from every care. In a little while we're going home. And no tears shall fall in that city bright and fair. In a little while we're going home." Thar turned around to the congregation and said, "Fathers and mothers and uncles and aunties, don't you want to come too? You try to sing it with us." And you should have heard that jungle crowd join in with, "In a little while we're going home." There followed a talk on the nearness of Christ's coming, and then some more singing. There were still pictures showing the increase of knowledge. Then there was more singing. Then the living pictures showing the wonders of New York City and a part of the Navy and the Army in action. I cannot take time to tell of all the wonder and surprise expressed as the jungle folks saw the great boats and heard guns shooting, for we had trained the drummer to hit his drum every time the cannons boomed. They had heard about the Great War before, but had no way of imagining what it was like. "Please show it to us again, Thar," they cried. So after some more singing and another talk on wars being signs of Christ's soon coming, the picture of the war was shown again, and the meeting that started at 5:30 in the evening was dismissed at 9:30. As the visitors from the outstations gathered around on their mats in small groups to talk further on the subject, and the nearby visitors harnessed up their bullock wagons and began to move off noisily into the night, Clever Queen said to her little mate as they walked arm in arm to their house, "Clear Gold, I feel strange inside. It surely is going to be only a little while, and then we're going home. But I don't feel quite ready yet, do you?" "No, but I do want to go too," said Clear Gold. "Do you know, I feel that I ought to be baptized, only I'm not old enough." "That's just the way I feel," confided Clear Gold. "What would we do if we were tempted and started smoking again?" "Huh, that's not what I'm frightened about. I have never smoked," answered Clever Queen. "It's keeping the commandments that worries me. I just try and try to obey sometimes. Then I forget and disobey sometimes. And I try and try for all I'm worth not to play on Sabbath, but sometimes I forget." "But Clear Gold, it's only a little while." "Only a little while, and we'd better be getting ready, don't you think?" "Yes, indeed, we must surely be getting ready."